Welcome back to the Changing Earth podcast with author Sarah F. Hathaway and co-host Chen Gibson, blending survival, fiction, and fact to bring you entertaining education that will help you dream, survive, and thrive. And now, here's your host, Sarah F. Hathaway and Chen Gibson.
Chapter 20. What are you going to tell the Major General? Monroe wondered. I don't know, Cole fretted. I'm sorry that those men died, Monroe. Trust me, I am. But why shouldn't the towns out west have access to the same resources as the people of the central region? None of this makes sense, Major, Chappie told him. The Major General will see you now, a young soldier called to Virgis from the building. Cole took a deep breath as he walked into Barnes's office. What the hell happened out there, Major? Barnes snapped. Sir, I sent crews out to the north and west because we didn't have an ID on them. But we assumed that was their place of origin, Cole explained. Standing angrily from his desk, Barnes insisted. Why didn't you call for backup? Thought we could handle it, sir, Cole suggested. No, you didn't. You let 2 vehicles go instead of calling for backup. You could have had more teams in there, and now a bad situation just got worse. Sir, we are closer than any other team. Alpha Squad would have been FUBAR, Cole defended. Major Virgis, are you a psychic? No, sir, Cole answered. I told you we needed to capture them. We have to set the tone of how this will go, Barnes insisted maliciously. I'm sorry I couldn't capture more people for your display, sir, Cole exclaimed sarcastically, sickened by his rationale. What did you say? Barnes questioned, standing in Cole's face. He was beet red with anger. You better get with the program, Major Virgis. You wouldn't be the rank you are without the fight General McClintock put up for you. Ready to accept responsibility for his actions, Cole told him honestly. I made the decision I made to de-escalate the situation. Yes, I let the 2 trucks go, but we got 4 thieves and a truck full of supplies back, sir. I am not thrilled, Major, Barnes scowled. Why don't you and your men go do traffic control on the trade line for a few days? Distraught by the man's response, Cole replied, Yes, sir, snappily, before slamming the door on the way out. Monroe and Chappie were waiting for him in the lobby. That sounded like it went well, Monroe commented sarcastically. Cole looked distressed, replying, He's a prick, but he's right. I should have called for backup. I didn't want to catch them because of her. Any one of us would have done the same thing, Chappie assured him. No, guys, we have to pick a side. People died today because my heart wasn't in it. I wasn't sure I was doing the right thing, Cole confessed. What are you going to do? For now, I'm going to report to guard duty as ordered. Hours passed, walking up and down the row of cars in Albert Lee. The night waxed on, and Cole was no more certain about his chosen course of action than before. Watching a young couple arguing in their car, Cole looked over. Chappie passed by on the other side of the road. This sucks, Monroe commented. We only have a couple hours left. Suck it up, Cole responded, forcing himself to sound motivating. Monroe grumbled back at him as Chappie ran over. Did you hear the news, Virgis? Major General Barnes is going to execute those people we rounded up, Chappie informed him nervously. Cole looked at him in disbelief. Who said that? Cook just returned from the restroom, and she ran into her friend, Chappie explained. Monroe rolled his eyes and smiled at him, teasing, And is news from the ladies' room usually reliable? Chappie looked back crossly. Well, yeah, Cook's friend works as the Major General's assistant. What can we do? Cole asked, concerned. He had already acted inappropriately and had been corrected for his actions. He knew he could kiss his career goodbye if he chose to go against Barnes again. He stood, stirring in indecision. You got to do something, Chappie insisted. Those people will be put to death over medical supplies. What am I supposed to do? He's the Major General. It's his call, Cole countered. Can you get a word through to General McClintock? Monroe asked. It would be a complete break of rank. Either way, there'll be consequences, Cole said honestly. We can't let those people die, Monroe said flatly. Chappie agreed. I'd have never rounded them up if I'd have known they were coming back to their death. His passionate plea was all Cole could take. You two stay here. I'll be back. Cole walked towards the command building, wondering how he would justify his presence there. The noise of a gurney leaving the medical center caught his attention as he walked by. He noticed it was Staff Sergeant Kristoff on the gurney. What are you guys doing with this patient? He asked curiously. The nurse replied matter-of-factly, He's paralyzed, sir. All the more reason he should be inside resting, Cole countered. He's a refugee, sir, the nurse explained, perplexed by Cole's objection. He's a fighter in the mercenary army, Cole explained. Not anymore. This man will never walk again. He's from Florida, which means he's a refugee. We're taking him to the refugee facility in Minneapolis, sir. In complete disbelief, Cole yelled, You take that man back inside. He's in no shape to move. Sir, she argued. Cole cut her off, commanding, Take him back inside. Watching her push the gurney back to the door, Cole aggressively approached the command building. Throwing the door open, Cole marched into Major General Barnes's office. Barnes looked at him, outraged. Major Virgis, I trust you have a good reason for this intrusion? Cole was fed up with how these people were being treated, asking bluntly, Are you going to execute those people, sir? You better sit down, Barnes commanded. I think I'm fine right where I am, sir, Cole declared. Barnes stood from his desk, commanding sternly, I don't. Now sit your ass down. Knowing he was entirely out of line, Cole took a deep breath and sat down in the chair as commanded. Major Virgis, can you feel the energy on the street? We're going to lose control if we don't set a strong precedent, Barnes explained. You're going to kill people whose crime is stealing medical supplies to help sick people? Cole questioned, outraged by the suggestion. They know the rules. The landowners get access first. The refugees get what is left, he explained. They're people too, sir. This is bull, Cole spat the words at him. Your insubordination will not be tolerated, Major. You're already walking a thin line, Barnes warned. What about Kristoff? What crime did he commit? He would have died for your cause, Cole declared passionately. And I appreciate his efforts. He won't fight again, and he is a refugee. His recovery is going to be a long one. He needs to be amongst his people, Barnes replied. His people? We're his people. You keep this up and no one will fight for you. If they want to eat and be free of a camp, they will. To what end? So they can die or end up in a camp anyway? You can't do this to him, Cole insisted, standing from his chair and looking Barnes in the eyes. Virgis, your behavior is unacceptable. You care so much about him. You and your two lackeys can drive him to Minnesota. And then you can tell your sob story to General McClintock. I'm done with you. You're dismissed, Barnes commanded. I wouldn't take another order from you if God himself came down and commanded me to, Cole snapped back. You're dismissed. Get your ass out of here before I have to call security, Barnes commanded. And take Kristoff with you, or I'll put a bullet in the man myself. I would never give you the honor, Cole said spitefully, heading to the door and slamming it behind himself. Chappie and Monroe were waiting in the lobby. What are you two doing here, Cole wondered. Backing you up, Chappie declared proudly. You got your wish, boys. We're out of here. Chappie, go tell the nurse with Kristoff to load him up, Cole directed. Yes, sir, Chappie replied, heading off. What's going on, sir? Monroe asked. We're taking him to Minneapolis, Cole replied flatly. Are you struggling with water storage woes? Tired of the algae and bacteria growing in your water, the weight of storing it and the amount of space that it takes up, the time that it takes to rotate it, and even when it comes to drinking it, you still need a filter because it's gone stale and you're not sure what has been growing in there. This limited supply of water storage can be a mess to store. If any of the containers break, you have water all over the place, and this leaves you storing water in a place that might not be as concealed as you'd prefer. Today I want to introduce you to the solution, which is the waterful system. The waterful system hooks up to any outdoor spigot. It contains 30 gallons of on-demand drinkable water for whenever disaster hits you and you need that water. Made in America to meet all safety requirements to ensure that you have drinkable water whenever you need it. There's no need to rotate the waterful system because its pressurized canister ensures your water's rotated every time you turn the hose on. It can stand up to any type of weather, is very, very durable, and it's made with UV inhibitors so it can stand the test of time in the sun. You don't have to worry about cleaning your waterful system because it takes care of itself. It is the ultimate plug-and-play water storage system, ensuring you have 30 gallons of drinkable water should disaster hit. Its sleek color ensures that it blends into any outdoor atmosphere and doesn't leave you with a big blue beacon of water storage outside of your home. There's no guesswork to put the waterful system together. It is a plug-and-play system that you can have ready in about 10 minutes. As somebody who's been into preparedness and helping others to prepare for any disasters that befall their life, the waterful system is the solution to water storage. I highly recommend you go over to Waterful, check it out, and use the code SARA, S-A-R-A. One more time, go over to Waterful, check it out, see about their system, and if it's a good fit for you, and use the code SARA, S-A-R-A, help the changing earth world go round and get yourself prepared for the next disaster. Hello and welcome back to the Changing Earth podcast. This is episode number 416. Happy to have you guys back with us today. Hey, Jim, what's up?
Chin's up, y'all.
So,
see if I could stay connected.
yeah. There's a nice storm going on over there, rolling in on you. So, see how the technology is going to do us tonight. So, yeah, just having a little green room chat. We're way behind. I was personally way behind on everything today. So, but I had a fantastic weekend. Went out shooting my AR. Had some fun doing.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah, all kind of movements and everything. Friend of mine who's a ex-Army Ranger. There we go. So, drills that we had never done before, and then got a scolding on breaking my gun down a little bit further than I had been. So that had to get done.
That platform is pretty easy to work with.
It is. It's super user friendly once you get the hang of it. So
yep.
Yeah, but I grew up on shotguns and stuff like that, and so I know how to do all that. But that was just it was a good learning experience. We're going to put it that way.
That used charging handle thing on the back.
Yeah. Well, all of that, like cleaning out all of that up in there. So she got a real good rip down and clean up.
Yeah.
And it was a fun day. And like both my boys shooting the ARs and stuff, because they love their 22s just like I do.
Yep.
And, Fletcher shot the shotgun before and all that. But, Christian was very much wanted to shoot the pistol and everything. And then they were like, oh, I don't know about shooting the AR. And I guess Fletcher's shot the AR before.
They're not that bad.
No. Yeah, even Christian.
They're more they look at than they are. They're pretty soft shooting.
They are. Yeah.
And
the 9 makes a much bigger hole than the AR does on the target.
Yeah.
But Christian had great grouping. I'm so proud. # proud mama. It was his birthday this weekend, so we had a good weekend. Lots of fun stuff going on. Okay, let's get into some changer. So today, Okay, let's start with last week. So last week we had the interview with the performers and
I
the
know.
bloopers. Oh, it was fun.
Fun. The banana.
Banana. Oh my gosh. It was the worst. Just could not get that out for the life of me.
Nobody texts us while we're trying to record this.
Yeah, banana. I was like, because as you're doing the lines, you read them ahead of time. I mean, I wrote the darn thing. I knew what it said. I was like, don't say it. Yeah, that's all that's in your mind,
And I thought it was pretty funny that Swenson just keeps recording. Just record, makes a blooper, record, just keeps going.
Yep. Yep. Redo.
Stop and erase.
No. You know what? It just takes so much time. I don't care if they don't do that, because he has so many lines to do because his character is like Swenson and somebody else, right? Even on my character, there's times when it's like, Vince or the kids doing something, but he actually has the most amount of lines. So I don't mind if he sends me stuff that, I'm going to find what I need. It's not like it's a big deal. So
it was fun listening to the whole Moore family all in one room.
Goofing around.
Yeah, that was fun.
Oh, we do have fun with that. So I set it up so it's like 2 mic lines going. And we just have a ball because it's just easier for me to edit the audio that way, honestly. So, but good time as a family as well. And then Dane is such a goofball, dude.
It's all right.
No. Oh, when I got some of those in, I was just like, no way. And the Chihuahua joke is like now the running joke of the house. It's so hilarious. So, yeah, and Doug, who plays Swenson, took it much better than because I didn't ask him like ahead of time, And Brock's like, oh, it's always better to ask forgiveness. So he took it really well as far as like, hey, I'm going to share some of your bloopers. So, yeah, that was good stuff. So if you haven't listened to that, go back and listen to it. It's worth your time. I cut it so it's just the interviews now. If you want to listen to the actual audio drama, you got to go back in time on the PBN timeline, or you got to go over to the Change in Earth audio drama podcast. It has its own podcast, so you can check it out over there. I did just finish block number 2, so it went over to JB to get all purdied up before it gets aired. I think we're doing that. I wrote down a date. Subscribing members, so members who subscribe to the Changing Earth, if you're a paid member, you're going to get the early access on September 28th, which is the week we get back from prepper camp. Mm-hmm. And for everybody else, the official release date for part 2 of season 3 is going to be October 5th. So first week of October, that's going to come out for everybody. And you really have got to listen to it this time. Not that you shouldn't have before, but there's some really cool parts, like the dog fight in there, that were really challenging for me to do that in audio. But it turned out really neat. And then, of course, like if you know the Walls of Freedom book, Erica's kind of desperation moment is coming up. And man, it just turned out fantastic. I'm honestly I'm most proud of that scene that I put together. It turned out really great. And Dane even recorded like the click, 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 click of an AR for me, like when it's out, and you're still pulling the trigger on it. So, yeah.
I had a little back channel conversations about that.
Yeah, right. I know. I was like, does it really do that? Like, my AR, I was all like foreign with it. So I was like, what does it do? What does it do? Am I allowed to do that? And my buddy was like, yeah, do it all day long. And even Dane said the same thing. So, but that scene turned out really cool. You're going to love it. My friend, I already showed it to her yesterday. She's like, oh gosh, you should use that as the teaser. And I'm like, well, it's kind of giving good stuff away though, So, Yeah. So block 2, really, I mean, we're starting to hit hard into some slamming material now. So, yeah, you got to check that out. Okay, last item of business is that today is the last day to buy prepper camp tickets. If you haven't got your tickets yet, it's over tomorrow. Like, you're done. You're not coming. So, if you got the wild inkling to come out and see us, today is the last day to get your prepper camp tickets. And for everybody who's hearing this not live, it's too late. Sorry.
Unless it's before midnight.
Yeah, well, I don't usually get them up that fast. You got to listen live, or it comes out on any time between Monday to Thursday. So it just depends on how busy my life is, you know. So, yeah, well, on PBN, you'd be able to hear it, yeah, over at PBN.
Yep.
So, yep. So if it's before midnight on September 10th, and you're like, oh my gosh, Sarah just said it's the last day. I got to get my tickets right now. You better do it. All right. And I'm so excited, and it's going to be so much fun. We had talked about doing a scene out there, like putting together a scene because there were so many people. And honestly,
not to.
yeah. I was like, it's just
like, more fire.
Yeah.
More fuel on that fire.
Well, I just have so much going on.
One weekend.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much it. I got the new class I'm teaching.
Epic. Would have been epic, honestly. But still, holy crap.
Yeah, but you know what's coming up in the series.
Yeah.
And next year, I will be at the end. When we do season 4 of the audio drama, we will get to the end of Dark Days in Denver. And if anybody who knows my story knows what happens then. And I think that'll be a way better scene to do live, something in there. So
the government comes in, it saves everyone.
Yes. And then everybody eats on silver platters.
On unicorns, farting rainbows.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, spoiler.
Spoiler alert. Yeah, so it'll be good. I think it's just great. So hopefully Doug will come out again. Doug is definitely coming to prepper camp. So you will be able to see Swenson. Yeah. Oh, that was hilarious. Yeah, no, you got to meet him before. I haven't. Like, we've been friends for years.
Yeah.
And I never got to meet him before. So I was like, dude, you better come. Come on, That was hilarious, though, when Garden Girl last week was all like, do you use a voice changer to do the voice? He's like, no, woman. And like, boom. Like,
just tell y'all to sit down and shut up.
Yeah, everybody's just like, that is just like, yep, that is Swenson right there. That's awesome. So, yeah, it'll be cool to introduce him to Ryan and whatnot. So, yeah, prepper camp. Sorry, I'm just so excited about it. It's coming up, and we'll have one more show next week, and then we'll be at prepper camp. So, you'll get a rerun of the show that we do there at prepper camp. And for those of you that are members of PBN.
Come see it live at camp with us.
Yeah. Yeah. And for those, the PBM members.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We get material out to you guys. We do like a live show from there, I think. So.
Yeah. They do like a campfire chat.
Yeah. Usually I'm drinking so much on that night. I kind of forget. Like, oh, yeah, we did do a show. You got to let your hair down every once in a while. I'm just saying, life's too short. So. Okay. So Virgis this week, he's reporting back to Major General Barnes. Didn't really go very well the first meeting.
And the second one didn't go too well either.
And the second one was worse. Yeah. So, yeah, it's just really his moral dilemma between, what do you do?
He can't walk that thin line forever.
No.
I mean, they just can't.
No. You got to be on one side or the other. So, it's a really cool part about his story. That's actually why I put it into its own book, because what a cool exercise for anybody who's involved in law enforcement or security, anything like that, because when the government's telling you to do one thing, because that's your job, well, everybody kind of got a little taste of that with the old virus, right? Ethically, what do you do when they ask you to do something that's against your moral values, but for the good of the country, quotation marks, right? So, yeah, so that's why I thought, it was really worth bringing the ethical dilemma of Virgis' story to a novel. Oh, and I'll have plenty of copies of those books at Prepper Camp.
Signed?
Yep, signed by the author. So
collector edition.
That's right, first print. Yeah,
I've seen that.
First run. Yeah. Okay, so it really brings us to the issue of national triage. And if you've been listening to this Virgis' story, national triage is something that comes up a lot. I think one of my favorite characters is the doctor that's like, national triage major. And in the audio drama, he does a great job of that. So, triage, for those of you who don't know, it's the process of sorting and allocating treatments to patients, especially battlefield or disaster victims, according to a system of priorities designed to maximize the number of survivors. So if, God forbid, our whole country was hit at once, this is an issue. Like, where do we put resources? Because right now, okay, Hawaii, right? Localized event. It's not affecting anybody on the East Coast. It's not affecting anybody, in California. Unless you have, family members there. But you're not literally, in the disaster zone. Right. So we can ship out supplies. We can ship out people. We can ship out money to help these people get back on their feet. Right. And we always do that. We rally support behind whatever area just got really messed up, hurricanes, stuff like that. So the question goes out, what if it was the whole country? Now, if it's a CME, we all have the same level of destruction. Nobody has power, right? So you're just kind of, nobody's infrastructure hasn't been destroyed. But in the, my scenario, what I present is that the whole country, the whole world was hit by an earthquake. So you got infrastructure down, people still alive, a lot of people still alive. And so how do you decide this area, we just can't save it. We just can't send resources there because we need them for this area over here. That'd be so difficult. You can't even hardly find information about it on the internet, actually.
Right. And that was part of what, not really, but kind of when Virgis, who was the guy that was paralyzed?
Oh, Christoph?
Yeah, Christoph. And they're like, well, we're just going to send him to a camp because he can't fight. He can't work for us anymore. I mean, it's kind of what, it's like, oh my God, those kind of
moments. Yeah. When you're like, this guy just gave all for you.
I mean, morale, basically, it was saying morale. If you start doing that to your people, what's their expendable to you? They're just an object, like a
to
pen.
Be used.
Once it runs,
yeah.
You're going to throw it in the trash can.
Yeah.
However, you're going to get to a point where people aren't going to to work with you.
Right, to want to. Like, why or you're watching that happen to other people, why would you be like, oh yeah, sign me up? But like the option otherwise is like, okay, well then you just get to live in a camp. Like, because if you had a situation where a lot of infrastructure was destroyed, so a lot of people lost their land, a lot of people lost their homes, you can't just allow people to just go running all over the place, or they would be robbing and the people who still have homes, who still have all their supplies and stuff. So you have to maintain order. Like when I wrote Without Land, it wasn't maliciously or anything like that. It was a serious examination of, okay, we had this disaster where a lot of people lost their land. A lot of people didn't. You can't just allow those people who are now homeless to just be running all over the place, or they start affecting the people who still have their stuff. And why should the people who didn't lose their stuff, get it taken from them or whatever because they survived, right?
How do you navigate that?
Yes.
With some kind of fairness isn't the proper word, but
tact.
People that weren't displaced, it was the luck of the draw. But the people that were displaced didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't like, they didn't card for what they had or whatever. I'm sure some of them did. How do you deal with that?
Well, and we kind of are dealing with it right now. I mean, look at all of the refugees that we are just allowing into the United States of America right now. Europe's dealing with it as well. Greece, all that. The refugees that are headed north. The influx of people in. And it's like, well, the people that lived there originally shouldn't lose their stuff, because now all these people need a more secure place to live, kind of deal. Right? So we're kind of dealing with it right now. It's eerily scary how similar the situation is, basically. And on one hand, like we looked at the refugee camps. We looked at Greece has built basically an Alcatraz for those types for those migrants and stuff, and until they can get them processed and moved on to a better place. And then I think it was in Jordan where they were keeping the Syrian refugees. That was more like a town, a community they made. But it's still like a closed environment where they're keeping those people. So it's very similar to FEMA camps that or these camps that I have in my story. It's a serious thought experiment, I mean, it's going to have to take some kind of a system. And honestly, that system does exist.
Have that conversation today versus having that conversation maybe 2 decades, 3 decades ago. It's a whole different.
It's much more serious, right? It's on the doorstep. Yeah.
It's how you thought it would have been handled. People's mindset right now has changed a lot. Trust has changed a lot. And what you think powers would do, at least I know personally, has changed a lot, right? So, back, you always thought that powers had your best interest until they didn't.
Right. And then you're like,
showed their hand.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the same thing with Christoph, right? Like, Major Virgis was like, yeah, we're fighting for this cause, for this good thing. That's what we're doing here. And then to watch the man just be thrown out like a pen without ink, he was just like...
So they're basically being treated like mercenaries.
Yeah.
But you're here for a job. If you can't do your job, then you got to leave.
Then you're out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if time served. There's no, retirement program.
Well, and isn't that the horrible truth of what happens to a lot of veterans today?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. It wouldn't be much different then. You know, it's just disheartening to think about how we don't take care of each other enough. You know,
Yep.
maybe that needs to be a conversation instead of a lot of the silly conversations we're having today. So, and side note on that too is that one of my friends who is Homeland Security was like, how did you know about that information? And I was like, I didn't, but you just told me now. So so I know those plans are out there. They just don't talk to you about it. It's classified stuff on what their game plan is if something were to be that disastrous. Also, I'll put it in the link. I'll throw it up on the chat. But Doug, actually, Hogan, we had that interview with him, or I had that interview with him years back. And he was talking about all the executive orders that are in place on what kind of control the government can exercise in these types of events. And it's spooky stuff, guys. I know I've talked about it before. But everything. The government can literally take control of everything for the greater good if they just say, oh, it's a national emergency.
Did you see that New Mexico governor just said that called a state of emergency
Yes.
after a shooting
And
basically
suspended.
in that state?
Yeah.
Or no, in a city. It
In
was
the
a
city. Yeah. Suspended your your right to conceal carry and open carry. Yeah, you can't do that. You can't just remove rights.
Yeah, that was
Our rights don't come from people.
Yeah.
They come from the good Lord above or nature's God.
And I saw that. I was like, what, I mean, every state of emergency, what are they going to do?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So it used to be that they like had these executive orders all broken up where they would enact like, oh, it's a flooding situation, so we need to take control of, you know, the water and this and that, and they could independently work and just take control of certain items that they needed. And then Obama was like, oh, we'll just roll it up into one. And so when we put that executive order out, then bam, we just have control of everything now. So I know I always listen. If I'm listening to the news at all, it's got to be a serious, serious situation. And if the word national disaster breaks those lips, I start really paying attention. Because that's scary. Keep your ears open for that one, guys. If you're not on the chat, I'll put it over in the blog for the episode. But we've done a lot of past shows that I'm going to be referring back to today because I've done a lot of episodes on this content as far as...
Yeah, we've triage. We've talked about the whole markings and colors and stuff.
Yep. Yeah, and what all that means. I would hate to think they would be like, oh, we're just going to mark California red and this one, you know, but probably they would. You have to have some kind of an organization system. Well, it's kind of hard to think about people just that way. Like, so, it's difficult thing to really run through. So that's what happens to the United States. We basically give power to the executive branch and FEMA to control everything on what's going on. And, of course, the executive branch would control our military to get them in motion, whatever they need to do. So what happens if the whole world gets hit? I mean... Because people, okay, we had the earthquake over in Morocco. We're going to talk about that here real quick. But, you know, so your national aid comes in, right? Even those refugee camps are getting like international aid to keep them funded. which I don't understand why we're not kind of doing something like that. And then we could get international hate or whatever, but cool. We'll put them 6 people deep sleeping on a sidewalk in New York and San Antonio. And don't even get me started on what they said regarding Texas.
It's kind of, we're the checkbook of the world.
Right? So, which is interesting, being that we are broke as a joke, yet we all have credit scores. And yeah, so anyway, we won't go there. But, so usually when we have mega disasters in the world, we're also able to help each other in the same way. If a disaster were to hit the whole world, I mean, nobody is coming to help anybody because you have to help your own. So it is so important to have your own disaster plan. We talked about this before we did the interview episode about, you can't rely upon the government. If something that big is if anything goes down, they really don't care about you. They don't care what's happening to you or your family or any of that. You need to prepare yourself for this event. And you need to know what's the capabilities of your family members, who you can rely on for support in those kind of events, and have that plan kind of in place. So personal basics, food, water, shelter, of course, totally important. If your home is not there, where are you going? Where are you going? You do not want to go into a government allocated area. Okay, this is not where you want to go. More crime happens inside of those areas because those are the desperate people who have no other option than to go to that government allocated area. So have a plan. Make sure you know what's up.
Have
what's that?
Have multiple plans.
Yes.
Have your plan A, B, C,
D,
because
E,
yeah,
F.
well, because
Yeah.
your plan is to bug out to whatever a family member.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what if it's a regional and that family member and you are both in the same boat?
Yes.
Or you can't get that family member, you got to head in a different direction. So, you have to have the B or C.
You have to have a network. And if you can't bring supplies with you, you better be bringing knowledge with you. Because people aren't going to let you in unless you can help. And if you're studying survival and listening to the podcast, listening to preparedness information, you are going to be in a leadership position because you know what to do. And you need to be able to bring that info with you when you arrive somewhere asking for help. So get a skill, get good at that skill, be able to help others learn that skill. And of course, Jack of all trades is awesome. Really good stuff. But you should have something that's really your specialty, so you can really help out in that area.
I can dig a hole now.
Yeah, one hell of a hole.
Yeah, I'm one hell of a hole digger.
There you go. Everybody's really in need. And I've done that show before too. On my website, guys, if you go to the learning area and you go to community and leadership, that's where you're going to find a lot of information on being that leader, having the right survival mindset, avoiding depression, really getting your mind together, overcoming like PTSD, stuff like this. Really getting your brain together, getting your plans together. You're going to have to be as much emotionally ready as you are physically ready. So if either of those are an area where you're lacking, you better start shoring it up right now. And then your community. Think about your community, what the resources of that community are. Everybody's got them. How I can tell you that when we lose power for like a week in California versus when we lost power for a week these are both rural areas. Of course, I lived in rural California and I live in rural Texas as well. The mindset of the individuals was very, very different. So,
Yeah.
right? So you need to understand, like, what are the resources of your community and how's that really going to play out? How does that look? What is that going to look like? Are they going to be like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world? Or are they like, okay, let's tie up our bootstraps and get to work,
So let's just go get this out of the garage and get to work.
Yeah. My favorite was so they have like no snow plows down here. And when we had Snowmageddon here in Texas, the folding tables, like they made wooden triangles and attached the folding table to the wooden triangle and then put that on the front of their trucks and they were plowing the roads with them. I was like, no way.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah. So awesome. It was so cool.
Yeah.
So, if you're in a city, you need to have plans to get the heck out of there.
Yeah.
So
Get out as soon as you can at the beginning.
Yep. 5 minutes.
You need to have spidey senses.
Yep. And like 5-minute evac plan. Because if you can evac your house in 5 minutes, you can get ahead of the traffic.
And haven't we talked about, I mean, you have to have, what's your trigger event? Like, what's your trigger?
Mm-hmm.
And just with it. Even if you lose a day off from work because it was a false alert, you went out of town and you have to come back. You have to have your trigger.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah. So the trigger event is like you set it in stone. And you don't let emotions affect you in that moment. Like, that's it. And it's already predetermined. And whenever that happens, it is go time. There's no like, oh, well, I think. Nope. Because your emotions can just get in the way in those types of events.
The doubt and everything else, creeps in.
Yep.
Hesitation.
Yeah, I have one where I should have probably not been hanging around, but, I got comfy on the deck and started writing. Oops.
That happens a lot with hurricanes. You're like,
right.
A couple have gone off and didn't come in, and you're like, we can do this one.
It happens with wildfires. Like, it's not coming my way. It's not going to be us this time. And then that wind changes, and it can happen so fast. So, same deal. All right, let's get into some change in Earth news. All right, changing Earth news, September 10th, 2023. So the sun's fairly quiet. We do have minor filament activity, nothing really to write home about. We do have some Earth-facing sunspots, but they are pretty stable right now. Oh, we just saw Chininator. So they're pretty stable right now. So nothing really happening there. Yesterday we had the 6.3 earthquake in Morocco. It was a biggie. Over 2,000 people injured, over 2,000 people dead. It happened at nighttime. Worst time it could happen. I wrote it into my book that way as well. They have not had an earthquake of this magnitude ever in their history, like in their recorded history. So my spidey sense immediately went up on this one because, very interesting how our planet is changing with, if you've been listening to me and then going out and listen to suspicious observers, we have some major planetary changes happening. We have some major changes that have been happening throughout our solar system. So we're not really sure how the Earth will be affected by what's going on with this magnetic wave that's coming through. And we know the shielding's going down. We know the poles are on the move. And this is just a prime example of something very strange to happen. So most people would assume, the historically the theory's always been that like Pangea was slowly made, slow over time. Continents cannot move quickly, that kind of thing. But we have no evidence that that's the case. And in my opinion, Ben has, before him, Einstein was very much into the fact that that our plates and everything can move. They just hadn't come up with the way to explain how they could be unlocked and move. How does that happen? How do they unlock themselves, right? And then there was just an article the other day about how there is an ocean of water underneath all the land, more than what's in the ocean. And so if you excite water with electricity, it becomes more buoyant, basically. It can pull through in strange areas. It can cause massive flooding in some areas. It can do crazy things, including float the continent that's on top of it. And Antarctica, they have maps from not that long ago, like, I don't know. I'd have to research it to tell you the exact date. But where Antarctica is sitting up more by like South America. And everyone's like, oh, that must just be an anomaly. Whoa, weird stuff, right? But you can actually get these continents to be able to move fairly easily. So, interesting. It's just an interesting time. We weren't here 12,000 years ago to see what happened last time this happened to our planet. And here we are, and we were alive during this period, and we're going to get to see what happens. So this is one of those things where it really sent off the spider sense, because this is an anomaly. This doesn't happen. And we're having 100-year storms every day, and all of this, the hurricanes are getting stronger. All this weather is getting stronger. The powers that be would love for you to believe that it's all because of humans, that we did it all. But guys, that is assuming that we live on a rock that has no life of its own. We don't live on that rock. The earth has changed many times in the past, and it will again in the future. So this is one of those things. Prayers going out to everybody involved in this horrible disaster that happened in Morocco. I heard about it yesterday morning, and it was just it takes your breath away to see pictures like that and what happened to those people over there. So, okay, we got Hurricane Lee out in the Atlantic. Mm-hmm. You been keeping your eyes on that one?
I'm watching it.
Yeah, so it's supposed to turn north. There's supposed to be like this huge weather pattern that's sitting over you guys, giving you some thunder tonight. That is supposed to hold that thing out there and push it north. So let's pray that that's the case, because that could be a very big and brutal storm coming in. So we'll just keep praying that's the case, and that guy decides to go north. Alrighty. November 4th, 2023. So we missed last week. I'm not going to go back through it. Biggest thing that happened last week was Hurricane Idalia made landfall in Florida. That cleanup's still happening. There was Typhoon Haiku that hit Taiwan. They evacuated thousands ahead of that storm. There was some massive flooding, but it was very much mitigated because of the action they took ahead of time. Massive flooding in Spain, like cars literally being washed out to sea and whatnot. So there was that. India and Odisha, 12 people were killed in this storm. They had 61,000 lightning strikes in this thunderstorm.
But who's counting?
Yeah. Satellite tech. Again, this is what I'm talking about. The changing Earth. The electricity gets more excited. We get hit by the solar energy. The magnetic shielding's down. We get more of this energy zapping across our planet. So, 61,000 strikes there. there was flooding at the event called Burning Man. Now, not a lot of people outside of California know what Burning Man is. Very much a a fringe event, I should say. Going to be kind. And so they all go out to the desert and burn the man, the corporate power, that kind of thing. And thousands of people go out there in the desert to party for that weekend. And they had rain like crazy. It's by Death Valley. And everybody got stuck there. So it just turned to mud. And so that was quite the event. And then we've been having some earthquakes in Ohio and northern Georgia. Couple of odd areas. Northern Georgia is by South Carolina. South Carolina does get a little bit more activity, but the Ohio, Illinois, Missouri, those, I keep my eye on those ones. That is New Madrid fault line. And we've been seeing a little bit more activity there than I would like to see. So hopefully everybody's, understanding that there's been some big earthquakes there before. And the New Madrid earthquake was not just like a one and done. That was like a month of earthquakes and literally sand blows and all this kind of stuff. That's like where sand is just erupting out of the earth. So this activity has happened before. So it's definitely something to keep our eyes on. Okay, September 5th. There was 456 earthquakes that were 2.0 or bigger, biggest of which was a 5.8 in Papua New Guinea. There was a 5.5 in southwestern Taiwan. Greece saw a massive amount of flooding, but also Turkey and Bulgaria were hit with that severe storm and flooding. 7 people, unfortunately, lost their lives in that event. On September 6th, there was 396 earthquakes that were 2.0 or bigger, biggest of which was a 6.1 in the South Pacific Ocean near Chile. Brazil, they got hit by a cyclone. It killed 22 people. They had a massive amount of flooding there. On the 5th, we had a 2.3 earthquake in northern Alabama as well. So again, too close to the New Madrid for comfort. Queensland, Australia, they had a mega storm, 34,000 lightning strikes. So this is not like a one-time event. This is pretty serious. They are lighting up on our planet right now. Southern Europe, there was a storm called Daniel. It hit 14 people, unfortunately lost their lives in that event. On September 7th, there was 410 earthquakes that were 2.0 or bigger, biggest of which was in the South Pacific Ocean. It was a 6.2 in northern Chile. The Canary Island also had 10 earthquakes within 24 hours. Canadian wildfires. Yeah, just minor ones, but you keep your eyes on that kind of stuff.
Could you imagine 10 earthquakes? You'd be like on
edge, right? Well, that's what I'm saying about the New Madrid. It wasn't like a one-time event and it was over. It was like a month of these massive earthquakes. People thought like this is the end of the world, but it was back when it wasn't developed like it is now. So crazy stuff. Canadian wildfires are still burning. They have lost double the amount of land. So their most historic wildfires, the amount of land they've lost double that this year. So still a very serious situation going on in Canada. The northern states of the United States are feeling the smoke from it still. I mean, just getting choked out. So hopefully we get some winter time on them soon. There was a storm slammed into Little Rock, Arkansas. They lost trees and power. And then Istanbul saw flooding as well. 5 people, unfortunately, lost their lives in that flash flooding. On September 8th of 2023, there was 271 earthquakes that were 2.0 or bigger, biggest of which was a 6.9 in New Zealand. Hong Kong has been absolutely paralyzed by flooding over there. The same flooding that's been hit in China has now hit Hong Kong. 2 people, unfortunately, lost their lives in that. 5.0 earthquake shook Shasta County in Northern California, and there was a 6.6 in the Kermadec Islands. They were worried about that having a tsunami hit New Zealand, but everything was good with that. Damaging storms hit the eastern part of the United States. One person died in that event. And they're still having big problems with dust storms over in Iran and Iraq and that. So Iran is trying to set up better policies so they can start mitigating that. It's kind of like the Dust Bowl over there right now. So not a comfort when you're going outside in that. Lots of respiratory illnesses and whatnot. September 9th of 2023, there was 486 earthquakes that were 2.0 or bigger, the biggest of which was a 6.3 in Indonesia. There was the 6.8 in Morocco. I'm sorry. The biggest of which was a 6.8 in Morocco, but there was also a 6.3 in central Indonesia. And then today, so far, there's been 433 earthquakes that were 2.0 or bigger. The biggest of which so far has been a 5.5 in the South Pacific Ocean near New Zealand. The Bay Area in California, in the last 18 hours, they have had 6,000 lightning strikes. So that's never comforting in that area of the world. They are not getting rain with that. So we got to watch out for wildfires from those lightning events. Andover, Kansas was hit with a major storm. Thousands of people without power there after the storm, and tornadoes came through their area. As far as volcanic activity, we have 27 volcanoes actively erupting. That is exactly the same as it was 2 weeks ago. We have 35 showing minor activity. That is up from 2 weeks ago. We have 31 showing unrest, which is also up from 2 weeks ago. As far as wildfires, we have 60. Oh, we're only at a level 3 preparedness level, which is actually down 1 from 2 weeks ago. We're at a level 4. So we're starting to see a lot more rain come through, that kind of thing. 68 big active fires in the country, in the United States right now. 348,430 acres actively burning. And 2 of those fires are contained. I'm just going to look back real quick. Yeah. So 2 weeks ago, we had 645,000 acres on fire, and this week we have 348. So you can see the step down already as that rain starts to really penetrate into the United States and bring us that much needed cooling relief. Finally, it's been hot here. Oregon is our number 1 state for active wildfires. 96,764 acres on fire from 13 active wildfires. None of those are contained. Idaho is number 2 on the list with 69,034 acres burning from 12 active wildfires. And then Louisiana, 3rd on the list, 43,560 acres coming from 5 active wildfires. So that should be interesting when I drive through there coming up. Well, I'll have to see if we drive through any of the burn zones. But we are supposed to get some serious rain to our area. I'm right by Louisiana, where I live in Texas. So I'm like an hour and a half from Louisiana. So when I'm getting rain, pretty much safe to say that they're getting rain, because usually Louisiana actually gets more rain than we do where I'm at. So hopefully that'll start to put those fires out and get that under control in Louisiana. So yeah, there's Change in Earth news. It's been
a lot of stuff going on.
Right? Earthquakes. Flooding. I would say those are our biggest. Yeah. And then the wildfires up in Canada. Man, they need some relief. Like, they need some winter right away. Can we get that on order? You know? Like, those fires can't sustain themselves once it starts snowing and whatnot. Right? It's got to be. They got to go out at that point. You'd think. Even if it's in just woodlands, you know, where nobody lives. Alrighty. Well, like I said, we got one more week next week. show, and then we're going to take the weekly hiatus for prepper camp. Yay! And if you're still on the fence, this is it. We lost Chin at the last minute.
One more week.
One more week. Yeah. So I know, I'm so excited. Christian was like, I wish it was just next week we're leaving. I'm like, me too, man. I'm so ready for the break. So,
Great.
Yeah. And get to launch the new class this year. And it's just going to be a lot of fun. So I'm pretty much planning. I'm going to launch that class here at Prepper Camp. Then I'm going to combine my two classes together and start trying to do as many seminars for anybody who will listen and anybody I can help out. I already had some takers. They're like, what are you charging? I'm like, I'm not, man. I just don't want anybody else to be a victim. I don't want to get more Amber Alerts on my phone, of who's missing today. It's just, it breaks my heart, man. So that's game. I'm
gonna have to make sure talking down on the speakers at camp. So
yeah. Well, I guess I'll be at one of the big tents for that class. So yeah, I'll have to figure that out if I'm going to even go on a mic, And then I've got my other classes over in the back corner, so I have lots of space to be able to teach all the hands-on stuff. And I don't need a microphone, So we'll see.
Well, because you got everybody.
Yeah. Well, that one year when it just packed out, I had to do the mic because, man, there was people like bringing in lawn chairs and everything. It was crazy. So I was like, well, I better put on a mic so people in the back can still hear me. But I guess Ken said I was teaching like half a prepper camp. Well, good. It's good knowledge. So, who was before me? Jane, who does the bug out bag.
Another short Spitfire.
Yeah, but she's so much quieter, right? So I'm sure like her mic was like turned up. And then I get in there and I'm just like, oh yeah. All right, guys. Well, I can't wait to see you out there at Prepper Camp. If you want me to come teach in your town, hit me up, www.changingearthseries.com. I'll do the best that I can to get wherever people want me to be. But, good Lord above, God willing, that I can get to you. And so, you want me to come out and teach classes for a church, a school, a group, a mag group, whatever, definitely hit me up, www.changingearthseries.com. Go become a paid member. It only costs you, I think my minimal is $3. So $3 a month. You help the Changing Earth world go round. You get the free access to the commercial free binge on the audio drama and all that. And definitely never mind anybody reaching out to me if you guys need advice or anything like that. So changingearthseries.com. Check it out. And until next week, remember, dream,
survive,
thrive.
Thank you for joining Sarah and Chen for this episode of the Changing Earth podcast. Don't forget to pick up your copy of Day After Disaster, Without Land, The Walls of Freedom, Battle for the South, Dark Days in Denver, and The Endless Night at www.authorSarahFHathaway.com. If you love the Changing Earth series and podcast, become a supporter while you're there.